Welcome to the WNT channel. We're really glad you've taken the time to be here with us today. If you enjoy content that connects facts, questions, and open discussion, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Today we're looking at a story that has everything: enormous wealth, the highest levels of politics, powerful friends, and allegations among the most serious imaginable. A case that filled headlines around the world for years. A story that still raises questions, doubts, and strong emotions. We'll go through the entire story from beginning to end. What stood behind his rapid rise, why the 2008 sentence shocked so many people, who helped him, and what verdict was ultimately delivered. And we will also mention the women who, after years, found the courage to speak out. This is a story that was meant to be one great trial. But the answers the world was waiting for may never come.
What if there was a man who knew presidents, flew with billionaires, was welcomed at universities, and yet, according to indictments, spent years building a system of abuse involving underage girls? How is it possible that people whispered about him for years, and yet he remained free? This is a case that shook the world. It is the story of Jeffrey Epstein, and it is not just a criminal case, it is a mirror of a system. A world where billions of dollars, politics, prestige, and according to the charges, the suffering of underage girls intersect. He had money, he had connections, he had access to places ordinary people never reach. But Jeffrey Epstein did not begin as a typical billionaire. He was not a tech founder or the heir to a family empire. As a young man, he worked as a teacher. Later, he entered the world of finance. And that is where the part of the story that still raises questions truly begins.
Without formal academic credentials in the field, he moved among individuals managing vast fortunes. He claimed he could generate profits for extremely wealthy clients, and it appears they believed him. Gradually, he built an image of a man who knew the right people, and those people in turn opened even more doors for him. He appeared at parties, charity events, and academic gatherings. He was photographed with prominent figures. He traveled on private jets. To many, he was fascinating and mysterious. Where exactly did his money come from? Whose fortunes was he truly managing? And how did he gain the trust of the most influential individuals? One thing is certain: his social rise was rapid, and the higher he climbed, the more untouchable he seemed. In the late 1990s, another symbol of his power appeared. Epstein purchased a private island in the Caribbean, Little St. James,
A luxurious, isolated location, accessible only by private travel. To some, it was paradise. To others, it became a place where abuse allegedly took place. And while he was building a reputation among elites, according to later testimony from victims, a very different story was unfolding behind the scenes. Girls, often very young, described being approached with offers of easy money. Some said they were encouraged to recruit others. Over time, a mechanism allegedly formed that operated for years. According to their accounts, it rarely began in a way that seemed dangerous. A recommendation from someone they knew, a phone number, an offer of quick money for a short meeting. But then situations followed that they were not prepared for. Some women later testified that they found themselves alone in unfamiliar environments, surrounded by luxury and people with enormous influence. And in those moments, saying no felt incredibly difficult. Refusing could mean losing money. It could mean humiliation. It could mean fearing that no one would believe them. And so, according to testimony, a cycle developed. Money for silence, a sense of obligation, manipulation.
Some victims said they only much later realized the position they had truly been in.
seeing before them a powerful man with endless connections and themselves as easily silenced. How do you fight someone with an army of lawyers and ties to politicians? That feeling of imbalance appears again and again in their testimonies. And yet, there were warnings, concerns, signals. How could such a system survive for years almost in plain sight? Who had the power to intervene? The year 2008, the first major blow, and for many the first major disappointment. Epstein reached a plea deal with prosecutors. The result was a very lenient sentence that allowed him to return relatively quickly to everyday life. The public asked, where is the justice? Is this how power works?
Time passed. Epstein resumed social connections. He traveled. He hosted visitors. Then came 2019, the moment when it seemed things were finally moving. Federal authorities arrested him again, and the charges of sex trafficking minors were far more serious. This time it appeared a real trial was coming. Journalists gathered outside the courthouse. Victims spoke of hope. The public waited for what many had expected for years. Names, who knew, details of how the system functioned, who helped. It seemed the answers were closer than ever. And then came the morning that changed everything. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. The man who could have spoken in court, faced questions, and possibly named others was suddenly gone. The official ruling stated suicide. A trial that was meant to be historic collapsed before it even began. Instead of closure, there was another wave of doubt, shock, and mistrust. How could a prisoner with such critical information not have been under stricter supervision? Why were there reported failures? How many answers did he take with him? A key figure in the case was his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman who had stood beside him for years in society circles, on trips, at meetings with influential individuals. According to the court, however, she played a much darker role. A jury found her guilty of helping recruit underage girls and participating in the functioning of the system described by victims. In 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She is serving her sentence in a federal facility in the United States. After years of investigation and the death of the main accused, at least one clear verdict was delivered. For some of the women, it brought a measure of relief, confirmation that their voices mattered. 20 years is a significant sentence, and yet for many, it represents only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. Because the central figure, the man who could have faced the toughest questions, will never stand trial. And what about those who lived through it? There are the testimonies of victims, women who, after years, spoke about fear, shame, and powerlessness. Some chose to speak publicly, others remain anonymous. They speak of trauma, a feeling that against money and influence, they stood no chance, of years when no one listened. For example, Virginia Giuffre publicly described how, as a very young girl, she entered an environment where, according to her, a system of abuse and pressure to remain silent operated. Her testimony became one of the most recognized voices in the entire case. Another woman, Annie Farmer, testified in court. She spoke about fear, isolation, and how difficult it is to stand up to people with enormous power.
It is important to say one thing clearly. Many other girls remain anonymous. Some were minors at the time. Others simply wished to protect their privacy. That is why we do not see their faces. How many voices have we never heard? This case is still alive, not just in archives, but among people. Perhaps one day there will be more documents, more testimonies, perhaps answers we do not yet know. Until then, this case remains a reminder of how closely power and powerlessness can exist side by side. What do you think? Is it possible that the truth is already out there and we simply cannot piece it together? Or has the most important part been lost forever? Share your perspective in the comments. Thank you for watching today's analysis all the way to the end. If this kind of content makes sense to you, support the video with a like. It helps it reach more people. And if you don't want to miss the next stories we'll explore together, don't forget to subscribe.
Next time, we'll look at another case that raised questions around the world. And once again, we'll try to separate facts from silence. Thank you for your time. See you in the next video.